This video is sponsored by Brilliant. Hey, Marcus House with you here. So, after the successful flight and landing of Starship number 15, it may be a little quieter than usual at Boca Chica. Don't let that fool you though, there is a lot of work going on that is certainly very interesting. We take a look at the Orbital launch pad tank farm and the Sanchez gas site updates in particular. Along with that, SpaceX broke another incredible record with the latest Starlink mission. OsirisRex is now heading back to Earth with its surface sample after departing asteroid Bennu, and a few beautiful updates to share around the James Webb Space Telescope.
Okay, Neil, we can see you coming down the ladder now.
Last week we were of course super excited about the launch of Starship 15, but there were a few further interesting points to that mission. As said by John Insprucker's pre-launch commentary, SN15 was expected to conduct a 3-engine flip and then deselect one of the two for the landing. However, onboard views provided by SpaceX certainly did show that only 2 engines relit for the flip until touchdown. As stated by Elon Musk a while ago now, the two Windward Raptors engines 2 and 3 are most optimal for the flip as they hold the most lever arm. However, for SN15's flip maneuver, the Leeward Raptor and one of the Windward Raptors lit instead. I wanted to talk about that more last week, but we had no information around why this was the case. Sadly, there is still no official reason that has been provided, although Starship's flight computer does hold the option to alter the engine ignition sequence. In addition, it has been suggested that engine 3 may have suffered an issue during the ascent, resulting in SN15 opting to not select that engine for the relight ahead of landing. This could also explain why SN15 just made it onto the edge of the landing pad instead of touching down closer to the centre. There is still room for improvement here, it seems, but all in all, the fact that the flight computer was able to see those issues and make adjustments in flight to ultimately still nail that landing is a huge win. It was a super smooth landing too. Just check out this shot from Cosmic Perspective, just released this week. There was no bounce here at all, just beautiful thrust control there right on touchdown. A link to that breathtaking footage is in the description, along with the incredible audio as well. Check it out if you haven't spotted that yet, and support where you can. Likewise, Boca Chica Gals footage here with NASA spaceflight from a more distant perspective. Thanks to the entire community out there recording this history. So after that flight, of course, Elon Musk did tweet a potential plan to refly SN15, as we talked about in last week's video. If this option is taken, reflying SN15 will achieve another required milestone for the goal of rapid reusability. Regardless, that spectacular success gives SpaceX a huge amount of data from onboard cameras and data recorders, as well as, for the first time ever, a physical condition of Starship itself, including the 3 Raptor engines with several minutes of flight time. After the flight, a custom transporter was rolled under SN15 designed to secure landed Starships without the need for a crane, and in this close-up we can see footage of the landing legs. It can be seen that they survived quite well without fully crushing down onto the ground. This is what they are designed to do, of course. This temporary leg design is a single-use only structure that absorbs the energy of the landing by crushing from the bottom up. Still no word on what the final reusable leg design will look like, so I do hope we'll hear more soon about that. SpaceX removed the used legs a few days after the flight, and assuming that SN15 is cleared for flight again, we expect to see new legs installed very soon. Early in the week, SN15 was carefully rolled from the landing zone to suborbital Mount B and then hooked up to the crane to be lifted onto the stand. Due to the severe weather that was on the way, that was delayed for a few days. Before any reflight, SpaceX will almost certainly put SN15 through at least one additional tank-proof test and a static fire of its Raptor engines. Any issues or damage that escaped initial post-flight inspections could easily arise during that process, and it's likely that one or more of the 3 Raptors will be removed for detailed inspection or replaced outright. Now some updates on the test nose cone within the test cell that we see here. On May 11th, a road closure was scheduled, and it was rolled out of the launch site after what seemed to be an extremely successful stress and pressure test last week. The nose cone rolled its way up back to the build site and into the high bay where crews began the dismantling process. There we see the black nose cone cap being removed late that afternoon by the bridge crane, and in no time at all the nose was out of its cage. Now, the news of the week really is that these new FCC filings show SpaceX revealing the first concrete details about Starship and Super Heavy's first orbital flight test. This flight aims to send SN20 on top of BN3 for a 90-minute mission. At 2 minutes and 49 seconds in the flight of the 120-meter Starship and Super Heavy stack, the booster's Raptor engines will shut down, with the stage separation occurring 2 seconds later. The Starship's Raptors are then going to fire up for 5 minutes and 45 seconds to push the vehicle into a single orbit with a maximum altitude of 116 kilometers, where the vehicle will travel once around the Earth before performing a deorbit burn and attempting its first re-entry. In the case that the vehicle survives re-entry, SN20 will then perform a soft ocean landing 100 kilometers off the coast of the Hawaiian island Kauai 90 minutes after liftoff. Before all of that happens, back in the Gulf of Mexico, just after separating with the Starship, SpaceX's first flight-worthy Super Heavy booster will perform a flip and boost back towards Texas and then land approximately 32 kilometers from the shore. Given that SpaceX has requested operational start date on June 20th, we could hopefully be seeing this spectacular flight as soon as the end of June or July, but there is of course a lot to achieve to make that happen. For this mission, SpaceX intends to collect as much data as possible during flight to quantify entry dynamics and better understand what the vehicle experiences. There are many aspects of this flight that are extremely difficult to accurately predict or replicate in simulations alone. SN16 is technically ready to be moved to the launch site with all of its aero surfaces now installed, but it may not be needed. With 5 successful high altitude test campaigns and of course SN15's successful landing on top of that, SpaceX, we believe, feel confident now to move onto the orbital class testing campaign with SN20. For that goal of reaching orbit by the summer to be realistic, preparations for those builds and the launch tower needs to be underway immediately. A potential jump from SN15 to SN20 would also have the added benefits of mitigating disruption to the orbital launch site construction. With a test vehicle preparing for launch on the pad, construction must pause and be restarted many times as the vehicle undergoes numerous tests. Interestingly, Starship 16 has been moved deeper into the high bay almost a week ago now, which adds a little more evidence that it is on hold, while also making room for the stacking operations of the next Super Heavy booster prototype. This, we believe, will be booster number 3 that will be required for the orbital tests. SN17 would also obviously be affected in this likely scenario, which currently has its sections prepared for stacking operations. Last week, the Common Dome was stacked on top of its middle liquid oxygen section. However, instead of further stacking operations occurring, it was rolled out of the mid-bay. On top of this evidence, the next ground support equipment tank, or GSE tank, has started to undergo stacking instead. This further implies that the orbital testing campaign systems such as this are now taking priority. The aft dome section for the 4th GSE tank was also flipped. Now, a few weeks ago we covered the hive of activity over at the Sanchez gas site. First, we spoke about those integration tower pieces and how exactly they'll be manufactured. A few more things to share now, but if you missed that episode, a link is in the description. I absolutely love this stuff and we cover this in depth every Saturday. Thank you so much for you here being with me while we cover all of these topics. You make this channel possible, and if you want to keep up to date and have a second to help support, this here makes a huge difference to us. Thank you very much. The integration tower here for the orbital launch pad has undergone serious work with its large concrete base and massive steel columns. As of now, they are actively working at the Sanchez site to assemble the next levels on these jigs. The jigs here allow workers to efficiently connect, brace, and bolt in the supporting beams and the diagonals. These cross beams and diagonals are what truly holds the tower together and support the main columns. With a full level, which would consist of 4 columns, 12 cross beams, and 24 diagonals, along with various other smaller beams, SpaceX can transport that entire level now over to the orbital launch pad. This way, with a single crane, they can lift, install, and fasten the whole level at once rather than assembling it piece by piece hundreds of meters in the sky. Overall, this method of pre-assembling the massive structure and transporting it is safer and largely more cost efficient due to the immense cost of crane operation. This method also allows for flexibility of the installation, which is necessary considering how turbulent the pace of testing is with SpaceX and their vehicles. Over the other side of the site, we are seeing some massive tank shells rising from the ground. These shells are being manufactured to insulate the orbital launch pad farm tanks. These GSE tanks will be storing propellant and other commodities for Starship and Super Heavy full stack flights. SpaceX has been manufacturing these tanks using the exact same tooling which is used for Starship manufacturing. They have continued on this trend and begun working on tank shells as well, which are currently being painted. This paint should hopefully help with the thermal insulation if it is painted white. Along with this first level of paint, the shells will also be utilising a stronger insulation system. We now believe that SpaceX will be choosing to have a vacuum between the two surfaces. This idea of utilising vacuum insulation is also supported by the cryo-shell tanks having what seems to be a pressure relief valve on the top here. We also have a very good idea now of the composition of the tank farm. By observing RGV aerial photography's photos here, we suspect that there will be 1 nitrogen tank, 3 oxygen tanks, and 3 methane tanks, along with 1 single water tank, which will be specially manufactured out of the same 12-meter cryo shells. Furthermore, the methane tanks appear to be 2 rings shorter, making the overall methane capacity lower than the oxygen. This makes sense, of course, as the Starship and Super Heavy methane to oxygen ratio requires much more liquid oxygen. If all this checks out, that means the orbital tank farm for Launch Pad A will be capable of 2 full stack launches, which is important for SpaceX's goals of rapid reusability and turnover times. Now, it was time once again for SpaceX to set yet another new booster reflight milestone record with the recent Starlink internet satellite launch on Sunday, May the 9th. This time it was the first attempt of a 10th flight of a Falcon 9 booster. As SpaceX carefully pushed the boundaries of the lifespan of a booster, it is logical to expect the life leader in the booster fleet to be lifting only SpaceX payloads, as we see here, as opposed to the commercial customer payloads. Sitting on the launch pad at Cape Canaveral Space Force Station in Florida, Booster 1051 was looking every bit like it had flown 9 previous missions, absolutely covered there with the telltale soot markings from the rocket grade kerosene, or RP1. This particular booster first flew in support of the Crew Demo 1 mission in 2019. Here we see it lifting off at 2:42 AM from Space Launch Complex 40, and the launch was just beautiful yet again. These missions are just so frequent and reliable now that the US Space Force recently announced that it will for the first time use a refurbished Falcon 9 booster for its GPS-3 SV5 satellite mission sometime around the end of June. With confidence gained from the past SpaceX commercial missions, the US Space Force is wrapping a validation process around the reuse of boosters for its missions to approve them for use in national security launches. This is going to result in considerable financial savings, with the launches this year of GPS SV5 and SV6 estimated to save $64 million. As the payload for this Starlink launch continued its way to orbit, we saw a successful landing once again, this time on the autonomous drone ship Just Read the Instructions. This also marked the 83rd successful recovery of a Falcon 9 first stage. Just impressive stuff. After that usual cruise stage of the mission, it was time to deploy the payload, bringing a successful close to this mission as well. We also have another terrific update this week, with NASA releasing this beautiful video showing the James Webb Space Telescope mirrors during a series of tests. For this very last time here on Earth, the world's largest and most powerful telescope opened up. This massive 6.5 meter mirror fully extended and locked into place. Just breathtaking footage here, and as stated by Lee Feinberg, who is the optical telescope element manager, this primary mirror is a technological marvel. The coatings, the actuators, isolators and electronics and thermal blankets, when fully deployed, form a single precise mirror that is truly remarkable. And wow, is there a lot riding on this mission. The next time this is going to open up will actually be in space on its journey to its final destination orbit. For those that are unfamiliar with that, this incredible marvel of modern science is not going to orbit the Earth like the Hubble Space Telescope does. This baby is actually going to orbit the Sun at 1.5 million kilometers, or 1 million miles, away from the Earth at the second Lagrange point, or L2. We just can't wait to see the James Webb Space Telescope launch. So remember late in 2020 when OSIRIS-REx, the asteroid sampling mission, touched the surface of Bennu, capturing regolith in a shower of debris? Well, the sample collected and safely stowed in the return capsule is now on its way home aboard the spacecraft. It's a long road back for NASA's OSIRIS-REx as well. After spending 5 years in space so far, with 2.5 years of that in orbit around the near-Earth asteroid Bennu, it was time to bid farewell this week. Why did it take so long to leave though? Well, Earth and Bennu needed to be lined up just right to start the journey home and bring back those precious asteroid samples for study. The 7-minute thruster burn conducted on May 10th increased the spacecraft's speed so that it was able to break free from its dance around Bennu. It is now travelling away from the asteroid at almost 1,000 kilometers per hour on an intercept course with Earth. OSIRIS-REx will orbit the Sun twice with course corrections along the way before the sample payload will be released near Earth, landing under parachutes some 80 miles or 128 kilometers from Salt Lake City in Utah on September 24th, 2023. Now, a few weeks ago, we covered the launch of China's Long March 5B rocket, sending the first payload out of 11 for the construction of China's space station. Since then, of course, the news of the massive booster stage returning back to Earth uncontrolled made headlines worldwide. We'll talk about that more in a moment, but just before that, a huge thank you today to our sponsor, Brilliant. This incredible brand is a great fit as well, because many of the course topics available from Brilliant are exactly the kind of things we'd like to know more about when researching these videos. We are always talking physics, propulsion and rocket launches to a degree every week, but to get a deeper understanding of these topics from a universal math and science point of view, Brilliant is an excellent place to start. The approach here is all centered on active learning and problem solving. It's about visually seeing concepts, interacting with them, and then answering questions that get you to think deeper about the topic. These courses are laid out interactively as well, just like a progressive story split up into handy chunks to explore one step at a time. For me, I've recently had a good explore around the scientific thinking course. In here, you get to research and explore engineering and the laws of physics while you learn the rules as you play. If you're naturally curious and you want to build up your knowledge, consider checking out Brilliant. That is not only a great thing for your mind, but it's also a wonderful way to support me here. To give it a try, just head to brilliant.org/MarcusHouse. The first 200 people to follow the link get 20% off the first year of Brilliant Premium. You'll find that link in the description below. So yes, the massive booster stage returning back to Earth uncontrolled made headlines worldwide. If you haven't heard yet, the rocket body did make its way back without any serious incident, largely burning up with some of the remains plunging into the Indian Ocean quite close to Sri Lanka on the 8th of May. Typically, all space agencies put plans in place to mitigate such things falling down on a populated area. Most Falcon 9 Stage 2s do that deorbit burn successfully, and even in the case of the uncontrolled entry, SpaceX had at least planned to deorbit in a controlled manner. From what we understand, the Long March 5B had no plan around this at all, and this is why it was condemned quite strongly. NASA Administrator Bill Nelson made a statement saying that spacefaring nations must minimise the risk to people and property on Earth with the re-entries of space objects, and it should maximise transparency regarding those operations. China is failing to meet responsible standards regarding their space debris. Jonathan McDowell, who is a terrific source of knowledge on Twitter, did say here after digesting the response from the Chinese representatives that their total lack of acknowledgement that leaving big rocket stages to re-enter from low Earth orbit is undesirable is kind of disappointing. The main question, I guess, is will the next Long March 5B mission have modifications, or will this trend simply continue? The Chinese Space Agency has demonstrated attention to detail in the past with the success of their lunar lander, and they also have a potential Mars rover landing coming in just days now. It does beg the question, where was the diligence in designing the 5B variant? While the other nations' space agencies design controlled deorbiting systems into their missions, this one certainly did raise a few eyebrows. So there we go, another amazing week of space news. Remember as well that we are huge supporters of the transition to electric vehicles here on the channel, and our partner EV offers the ability to hire an electric vehicle in Australia. Perhaps you have wanted to take an extended test drive. You could be touring the country and want to drive around in a Tesla. If that sounds appealing to you, you can use the link in the description for a discount. Thanks to the amazing patrons and YouTube members supporting us here as well. Your support contributes significantly to the frequency and the quality of these videos. The support that you all here provide allows us to increase the time that we can collectively spend in research, editing, and quality control. If you like what we're doing and you'd like to help assist us with what we do, you can join up as a YouTube member via the join button below, or you can become a patron at patreon.com/MarcusHouse. Either of those options gives you access to chat with me more directly via the linked roles on our Discord server. You can also have your name listed right here like all these other amazing people, and you also get earlier and ad-free access to the videos to watch before anyone else. Thank you especially to the production crew assisting greatly with the video production, along with the quality control squad here for helping me research and proof the material for these videos. If you're interested in these topics and you'd like to keep up to date, remember to subscribe here below and follow me on Twitter at MarcusHouse. In the tile in the bottom left today, we have my video from last week. In the top right is my latest video, and in the bottom right, content that YouTube has selected from the channel just for you. Thank you everyone for watching, and we'll see you all in the next video.